let's go ahead and start with this first talking point we're going to go over today. How to prioritize self-care in your life and what it looks like for you. And I think this one's an interesting one because Joy has never worried about what anyone else around her thinks. Joy has never been afraid to navigate her own trail. She's never worried about the popularity contest, or she's never stretched herself into being something for somebody else that wasn't authentically, genuinely her. And I love that about her. And I think that has a lot to do with just her confidence and who she is. And like I said, self-care can come in a lot of different forms, but the way I see it show up in Joy is just her not trying to be someone else she's not. And she automatically loving herself and thinking of herself like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to expend my energy that way. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, well, we have enough just within ourselves, right? To keep track of and take care of. So taking on, worrying about others in that way, how exhausting, when I can put all the energy and efforts into, other things that, can make a difference. So yeah, you're right. I just don't get caught up in that. The self-care, it's all in my, activity. I just try to, stay healthy. I love to still swim, work out as best that I can, even with, limitations and kind of changing workouts just to kind of, my needs. But activity is huge. And but I think the biggest thing is I love being around people. I get inspired by others. So, being volunteering is just where it's at for me. I just get all my fuel. And it worked too. The people I work with, just all of that. Self-care. I just surround myself with amazing people. And I just try to concentrate on those things and not getting caught up in the things that really I can't control, or, that are just going to take so much of my energy and really not go anywhere. So
no, absolutely. And you've always worked in environments that inspired you. You've never been one that's had a job where you're like, no, I'm just doing this to do it. You love what you do.
I do. And Melissa, I know you mentioned mortgage, which I was for over 26 years, right? And what's cool is, that's kind of ventured out into something different now. And I really get to make a difference for people because I've been an SBA loan officer now, a small business administrative loan officer for over 2 years now. And gosh, talk about making a difference. You're right. You're doing startups, you're helping business acquisition. The things that I get to do on the work site and just to really dig into the phenomenal things you see people in their dreams. It's just so cool. It is really, really neat. And it builds me every day. So, I love it. And then my new adventure, the same thing. There was a need. I actually reached out to a partner of mine that I knew that might be able to, I couldn't find anything, to help me. And I went to her and said, can you make me something? And so that was cool. Cause then she started to work on it. She's like, Joy, you can't be the only one that might have these challenges. I'm kind of like, really? It's not just about me. It was really funny how we kind of that light kind of just went off like, you know what? There's got to be other women that have these challenges. They're out there. We've got to do something. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I am so on board. Let's go. So it's been a journey and it's been amazing. The stories we're hearing every day. So yeah, fills my cup for sure.
Yeah. Fills your cup. And that's such a key in the fact that being actively engaged in work that fills your cup, that way you're not giving from an empty space. The reason you have the energy and the passion for what you do is because what you do fills your cup. It's naturally built into, and you've never been willing to settle for anything different than that. And I think that you are ahead of the game compared to a lot of women. What do you attribute that to? Because you've always been that way. And like I said, since I've known you when we were in our late 20s.
Yeah. I don't know. I really watch people. I love the great story, right? I just really I just love to watch people, and I love to see what they do. I think probably, I mean, I tell my one of the biggest things my children will say, and I've told them this since they were little, because it has probably been the number one thing in my life that I really didn't realize until later. But early on, I mean, you just pay attention to people that come across your path. There is a reason why they do, and they will come back around over and over again. And I can't tell you, I mean, it gives me goosebumps when I say that, because there's some people in my life now that's how it happened. And, you know, I mean, just when I first saw them, they were probably at a level that I really didn't think that I would probably be even talking to them. But somehow, I mean, I just had that connection immediately, like, wow, I want to know more about this person, and that she's inspiring me, or, you know, whatever little thing went on in my head, that came to be in a huge way in my life. And it has now come around a little bit in my daughter's life. And so that's just a huge thing. And I live that every day. I'm like, there's a reason why this person's over here talking to me right now, or, you know, that's just been huge. And I think it's just really important. Others are going to inspire you in ways you have no idea.
And just being open to that. And
absolutely.
To that. Oh, that's awesome. Confidently setting boundaries. I think that you are kind of a boundaries person without even knowing you're a boundaries person. You remind me of my youngest Court a lot in that way. I think you and Court are a lot alike. In fact, we used to joke, she's nodding her head, we're smiling, because we used to joke when we were little that Courtney was also Joy's child.
My Court.
Yeah, exactly. But so talk about it. You like, all right, no, this is how it's going to be. And talk about the boundaries piece, and if that's how that's played out for you, and why you've always been able to kind of know that.
I don't know. Is there boundaries?
Well, there's like this. You've never let things stop you. So in some way, you'll blow through other people's boundaries that they've set for you. They're like, no, that's not for me. I can do this. So but also, I think those healthy boundaries, and then we talked about a little bit this earlier, where you don't allow things to interfere with your space that aren't good for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Gosh. I don't know. You just can't be afraid. I mean, you just have to be fearless. And again, you know, just going back to kind of some of our family mottos, you know, when we've told our children, and both Bill and I mean, we're like, you know, if you're going to go for something, you go for it 100% and over. I mean, you know, and we're huge on, you know, as long as you know you did your best and you did it 100% and you went full out, you know, let the chips fall where they may, right? I mean, it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to turn out to be, you know, what you think it's going to be. But man, if you're into it, and if that's what you want to go for, man, you go for it 100%. There is no boundary. Yeah. So, you know, and we've lived by that in our family. I mean, that's just kind of how we are. And as you can see, kind of through my life with 19 surgeries, you know,
there's the number. Think about it. You know, anyone else? I had to Joy. She could be bionic by now.
We're close. We're really close. I don't know. You know, the competitiveness of me, I mean, it's kind of to a fault, I guess, in some, right? But, you know, I wouldn't take back any of it. Not one thing. And I know I've been through a ton, but I wouldn't take back one surgery or one bit. So it's just built my character. It's everything about me. It is me. Right. Yeah. And I've accepted that. And it's, you can't change who you are.
No. And I love that, because you, again, you know, because from the boundary space, you both don't allow others to set them for you. You set your own. You decide what it is you can and can't do. And you've always had the ability to do that. But also we'll talk about later, and I think we'll really touch on it now, is we talk about embracing the layered aspects of ourselves on this podcast. And that means all the pieces. And you just exactly said that. It's like, not that you want to do it again, but you wouldn't take any of it away. You are able to see all that you learned from all of those, and you wouldn't change it because it's made you who you are today, which is what embracing the layered aspects of ourselves is all about. And I love that you have that attitude. Like I said, you kind of espouse all the things we talk about because you're kind of a woman. You've been able to do that. You haven't allowed gender norms or cultural norms or anything to define you. You've always had a very good understanding of that. And it's led you to the peaceful, fulfilling path that you're on, I would say.
Yeah. I fully wholeheartedly accept every layer of my life. Of myself. Every scar, every tear. It's who I am. It's not perfect, but there's no such thing. And I just have to accept, what I am, and thankful that I have an amazing husband and family that accept it as well, because we've been through a lot together, right? I don't just go through it myself. You go through it with your family, and that can take its toll too. But when they're all on the same page and, incredible family, I'm very blessed, for sure. Very lucky.
Yeah. And that's really important too, though, is you talk about that support system and having those people around you that love you for who you are. And you have done a good job of understanding that and embracing that. But you don't allow people that don't have that, feel that way. Don't allow them to take your energy.
Right. No. That's just, what comes to mind with that. And, I don't know, some might not like what I'm saying here. I don't know. But, when I talk with my daughter, I love my daughter to death, right? We all do, our children, and she's amazing. And, but one of the biggest things I see that some of my friends do, that they get involved so much in their lives, like, oh, my daughter's my best friend type of thing. And I'm like, no. How exhausting is that to take on that, expectation and that layer? Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? I love my daughter, and I will be here and I will guide her, but I'm definitely not her best friend, nor would she want me to be her best friend. Yeah. It's just like these women need to, and I'll tell them, I'm like, you need to relieve yourself of that. They're adults, they're grown, or whatever point they're at. It's wonderful to have that relationship, but to be at that, to be at that level of that, that's something you can, release a little bit. Get that off your shoulders. That's just, too much. Yeah. So, and I see that quite a bit, and I tell them, I'm like, let that go. Yeah. You're their mother.
Yeah, exactly. And understand and not putting that pressure on yourselves or the daughter.
Yeah. That's what absolutely.
That's, and that's a classic example of a healthy boundary. I'm like, okay, this is what we are. This is not what we're supposed to be. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's, wow. Yeah, same.
Yeah. We'll see what people think of it.
Oh, that's talking about things that we need to talk about, that we off of and afraid to tiptoe around. I think that's
well, I think it's huge. I've seen it a lot lately, and it's just it's just like, no, that's not what they need. You know what? Your best friends are not going to tell you what you really need to know necessarily, right? Yeah. So your mom will.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, and just
that's what we're for.
But I think sometimes too, and tell me if you agree with me on this, I think sometimes it gets to that point where when we don't know ourselves as well, when we aren't comfortable with that new season or that new space because we have our own kind of inner fears of what's coming next, then sometimes we cling to those relationships in a way that's unhealthy as we're trying to redefine this new season we're in.
No, absolutely. Absolutely agree.
Taking care of our emotional health as much as our physical health. Talk to me about that and what that looks like for you.
Oh, that's a tough one for me, because I don't really go. I know. Boom. I don't go to that emotional, side often. I'm kind of known. Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of known as the, stoic one a little bit, I just, I definitely absorb, things or whatever, but I feel like I really can filter out, what is, worth taking my time or, taking that on. And that's probably a lot of my calmness, even keel, because, when things happen, I absorb it first. I mean, I do not have that reaction of, or whatever, or I did. And that's a lot of just what I've been through too, right? When you take pain or whatever, I mean, I'll be like, oh, that burned, but I don't react to it. I don't feel it. I mean, so it's kind of really weird for me in that way. So I think it's important that you just absorb it first. I mean, everybody's different, right? But absorb it, process it a little bit before you react to it. In your words, and all of that first. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's important, or that I do, because that initial reaction can set off, everything, right? In the negative or the positive or however because that's what the first thing everybody's going to see or hear. I focus on that, or that's just my personality.
No, I love it. I think it's that healthy, that's that ability to step back and be like, okay, what are we going to do with this? And then that helps it to not, because when we have those super emotional, because I'm the more emotional one for sure. When we have those, and I really had to work on that super emotional guy, you brought up a great example. You don't know what that's going to ignite in the situation. That it could be avoided if we can just take a step, take a breath, process it, come up with a good way to react. And then that really eliminates too the kind of physical reactions we have in our body if we can step back and process that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And of course we're seeing that right in social media and in the world. I mean, everywhere, that people just don't take that little extra second to think things through, or, to react to something. It's so instant, and I think that could just change so much if people just take that breath, and absorb what's coming in before they, send something out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How can we support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically? And you live unapologetically already. It's in your nature. You haven't recognized that about Joy by now. Yes.
So are we kind of talking about, why we do the things we do, or
and just this is who I am. I'm not apologizing for it. I don't need to over explain it, and how we can, and because women are notorious about saying sorry for things that aren't their responsibility, for feeling like they have to explain why they're doing something if it's not what the culture around them or their family or their church or their parents or whatever it is expect of them, that they've got to explain it so they don't feel guilty. You don't live in that world. You never have.
No.
So you do that. And how do you support other women in doing that? And you talked about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about how moms with daughters and best friends, and how you're like, oh, wait a minute, this is not how we want to do it. So in terms of that, when you see someone who's not living in that space where they feel like they have to explain everything, or they feel like they're having some guilt around doing something that they're really passionate about, what do you do to encourage them to I live unapologetically. I want you to come along with me. Yeah.
It's okay to be just okay in certain things. And it's okay to say no. And I say no a lot, and it's hard, but if I can't do something, like I said, 100%, and do it well and make the difference that I want to make, or the impact, or, be involved, I'm not going to do it. And it's hard, like I said, because you get asked to do so many things, but I also know my limits. And I'd rather do these things over 100%, and do that than to just volunteer or say I can do this and just be a part of the team, but not not doing my best. That's just not a good feeling, right?
Yeah.
And then you punish yourself for it. Oh gosh, I knew I shouldn't have done this or whatever. So, before jumping in, I mean, it's just it's okay to say no, and it's hard. I mean, same with Bill. He's asked to do so many things, and he wants to help, and we all do, right? We all want to have that impact and make a difference, and there's so much out there, that needs attention, and that so many of us would love to do, but you at some point you just need to make that decision and what's best, because someone else might have better time to be able to put towards it, and that's okay. And like I said, and it can come back, again later maybe, but and as far as inspiring other women, the same thing. I mean, I just tell them, I'm like, it's okay, you can tell me no, or that now that you're doing this now, it's okay if it's not right now. So you can pull out, or you can, make that change. It's not like we're doing things to hurt people or, so everybody's just trying to do their best, I think, and, have the best at heart of trying to make a difference in doing things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. No, really, really good. And I think, you made a good point about not only doing that for yourself, but providing an environment around you where people feel safe to do that also. Like, listen, I'm asking you to do this because I think you'd be great at it, but I trust you that if you think you can, that's okay. No hard feelings. This is a safe space. No judgment. At the end of the day, I want to do the best for you. And so creating that safe space, I think, goes a long way too.
Yeah, as long as they're okay with it, right? Yeah, I mean, they've got to let it go too.
Yeah,
I mean, you've made that decision, and so if you got to let it go and be good with it, knowing that it's for the reasons that you are doing it, and knowing that it's just maybe not the right time. So yeah.
Awesome. No, such good points. And you've really kind of already addressed this, but we'll revisit it because I think it really ties into your living unapologetically and all you've talked about in the importance of setting and coming back to your why in everything you do. And I think you talked about this really already in talking about, if I can't do this at 100%, if I don't have the space, then I don't need to do it. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Like coming back to the why, I mean, I love my work. I mean, I don't even like to call it work. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's just so much good about, getting a good day's work in and all that, you go through the whole day and all that you can take in. I mean, work is good for you. I mean, it just really is. I mean, are there things that you can do, to get breaks and all that? Yeah. But work is so important. Having something that you're focused on and need to show up for others, so, I mean, my wife, I mean, I love work. I'm probably addicted to it a little too much, but I get to do amazing things, right? And I make a difference. So, I get to work with amazing people. This new company, this new venture that I've just taken off with. I mean, I have two amazing partners, so I'm learning so much through them in this. And again, we just did a street fair. So first time out in person. We launched during COVID online, but did our first time in person. And I mean to tell you, talk about 3 days of just. I mean, the stories and the women we got to speak with and it was amazing. And seeing them walk out, they would try it on and they'd walk out and like, I don't need a bag. I'm walking out in this thing. I mean, the confidence. I mean, it was we had that experience probably 8 times. I mean, they're just like, I'm wearing out of here. This is awesome. We just one other quick story because this made my whole weekend. There was one gal trying it on in their little try-on room. And she goes, is my friend still out there? And I said, yeah. I said, do you want me to grab your friend? She's like, yeah, if you could. And 2 can fit in there. So her little friend went in there and I just hear this. She goes, do I look as amazing as this mirror is telling me I look? She's like, is this a magic mirror or is this really what I look like?
Love that.
And her friend was just like, no, you look amazing. Oh my God. I mean, so it was, I was thinking, what else might be going on? But, like she might have something bad to say or got to be ready for that. But it was awesome, and talk about the smiles and just, the reactions. I mean, I just can't believe, just the reactions and the happiness of some of these women. That it's just amazing. I don't even know how to describe it. So I'm just so lucky. I mean, that's my why, and it's continuing to be my why because we're kind of growing and have some really neat things going with that business. But also just what I do in volunteering. I volunteer at a women's shelter, every Thursday for about 4 to 5 hours, and these women are amazing. I mean, they inspire me. I mean, what they have been through is nothing compared to, what I've been through. I mean, they have been through way more than I will ever go through. And, they're making this change and they're bringing their children along with them in this journey. I mean, this journey can be, 19 months of a very strict, commitment for them to change their life from, just some unbelievable, trauma to, all sorts of things that they have been through. And I mean, like I said, they inspire me every time I'm there. They are amazing women. So, I mean, I don't know. We've just got to be so in tune with what we have and blessed with what we have. So, because it could be different, right? And it's different. It's different for so many. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very thin line on that. And I think just our recognition of that, of like, we're not that, if you look at your life and things that have happened in different twists and turns, I know that I've found that in working with the nonprofits I work with, like 1 or 2 different decisions. And I could be in that situation too, and sometimes decisions when you're younger that aren't in your control. So we're not as far off from some of those things as I see. And I think that's a good reminder, but I love what you've talked about here throughout the episode today of there's a consistent theme of you doing things, your work not feeling like work, and surrounding yourself with people that inspire you. There's so much in that, and that you love what you do because if we could all get to that space where we're surrounded by those people and we're doing work that we see making an impact that inspires us daily, you are drawn to it because it doesn't feel like work. It feels like you're tapping into your truest self and what you were made to do.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for every day. I mean, it's like, what's next? What's tomorrow? I mean, it's just, it's exciting. And sometimes you never know, right? That person might come across your path the next day and you're kind of, whoa, blows everything out of the water.
You're ready for that. No, I love that I love that. And that's been a theme for you. And I think that is so important if people could tap into that.
Yeah. Some of my roots, I mean, Bill, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law are incredible people. As well. I mean, certainly my mom and dad, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law have been big Rotarians, their whole life. And I was introduced to that kind of at a young age as well. And I've continued that. And so that's a big part also of just community and Rotary. I mean, service above self. I just learned that early. And I just love the things that we're able to do, in that organization. That's important to me too. And I do a lot of, part of a lot of committees and a lot of volunteer work in that way as well. So it's just, it was kind of ingrained in me early.
And you learned that early and you took it on and when we talked about boundaries earlier, what I like about your boundaries is like, I don't take on anything that doesn't feel like it's true to me. I don't take on anything that doesn't feel like it's what I was made to do. I don't make space for that. I know where to say no, where to say yes, because I know what my why is and I know who I am and I know what I was made to do. Yeah. And that's just such an important piece of being in the space where you are. This is at once another thing you're so good at. I feel like you've defined all these things. You are very good at living out of your own expectations and not others' expectations. Is that a space you've always been that way since I've known you? Has been a space you've ever struggled in? Or is there any like turning point in your life early on that you got to that space, or talk about that because you are really good at that?
Yeah, I would say probably early on. I mean, we're talking about the competitive side. I mean, when you're growing, through those years, and you've got a big family. My mom and dad. At that time, it was, probably more the boys in the family, kind of like they should go to college, maybe because they're the ones that are going to be the breadwinner of the family. I mean, that was back then, right? That was that was that time period when that's kind of what their thoughts were. And I, remember feeling that. So, but when I had the opportunity to go to college on that, swimming scholarship, that was a big deal. And I felt that was a big, that was an expectation I had of myself that, first one in the family, first, girl in the family to go on to college and make good of that. Right. And do well. So, I love swimming. I had a high expectation. I think with all sports, I did. Same with softball. The team sport, softball, so a little bit different, right? And that was definitely more difficult for me because, you get to the point when, the game's on the line and you're not the one in the batter's box.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the one in the batter's box. I knew that. It was like, call me a little selfish there, but I mean, you knew.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be the one, in there right now. Making that last play or, whatever. So I didn't have the confidence necessarily in that one in there. And, you learn through all those things. Team sports are great for that. You got to come together and you've got to earn that trust. You got to build that trust. So, and with the swimming, it was individual. So, I just put that pressure on myself, for sure, and expectations. But, what's interesting, college really didn't, I went and made it about 3 years, but I didn't enjoy college necessarily. It was hard. It was really hard. And I just felt, I just struggled in that space. And it was a different type of learning than I was used to. Lots of tests, don't do so well on tests. There's just, things, right, in the way that you've grown up and learned. So, but, I knew that, and going into the workforce, I knew that I didn't quite have that, degree. But you know what? I'm going to do everything else that I could to take advantage of every opportunity to make up for it. And I have. And again, like I said, if something comes your way of learning, or, I went through banking school, right? I've got that opportunity. So, you just continue to take those opportunities, and we continue to learn. On and on. And I don't have that degree. I don't have a master's degree, but I sure feel like I have the life degree.
Yeah, 100%. And you didn't let anyone define that for you. Again, you defined that for yourself. But I think you hit on an important point. You and I both grew up in an era where it still wasn't 100% that you were going to go to college, especially the girls.
Right.
And it wasn't 100%. It was starting to be a thing. It was definitely more of a thing than it was for our parents' generation, but it wasn't that automatic. And there was still a stigma that the man was the breadwinner, blah, blah, blah. One of my favorite things, I have a lot of favorite things. You guys have heard this today about Joy, but Joy and Bill defied that whole thing from the get-go. Joy in the banking industry, and Bill is an athletic trainer. He's now in administration, so he was overseeing that at Gonzaga University. But as an athletic trainer, most of their time raising the kids, athletic trainers and teachers are the two professions in the world. They're the most underpaid for the time and care put in. That being said, Joy was always the one that made more money. And that's just how it worked out for them. Bill was passionate about what he did. These two are both very good. This couple, very good about honoring and doing the things they're passionate about and cared about. Bill did not let it define, nor did Joy, or in their marriage, define that athletic trainers don't make a ton of money, but Bill loves what he does. And Joy loves what she does. And they were always okay with, at least to us on the outside, the fact that Joy made more. And that wasn't cool then. It's not, even now in 2021, we're still adjusting, and there's still those side jokes about being somebody's sugar daddy or sugar mama or whatever, because, if the female makes more than the male, and there's still kind of those jokes, but it's much more normalized and accepted as being normal than it was 25, 30 years ago when we were starting out in college. Talk to me about that dynamic and how you all were just able to just navigate that when you guys were ahead of your time in that space.
Yeah. I mean, well, communication for sure. Right. Again, just so lucky, that we call them soulmates. Right. I mean, we 33 years of marriage this summer, and went on a date to the senior ball in high school. And that was my one and only date. And I married him. So I thought I did pretty good there. That profession, I mean, gosh, they give their heart and soul, and they give their family. I mean, they're working 60, 80, 90-hour weeks sometimes, especially during those, football seasons or whatever. It's what he loves. It's absolutely what he does. He's not doing anything for the money whatsoever. It's his passion. He loves to help these student athletes. And of course, what I thought was important, because I think there's a lot of athletic trainers and their families that somewhat struggle a little bit with this, but, it's important for their children, if they have the children, to know what they do. And I mean, I don't know how many, basketball games I would be carrying one in the baby holder and holding one hand, and I didn't get a close parking spot, right? So I'm middle of winter going through Pullman and going to Beasley, and it's like, even if that game was at 8:00 on ESPN, we were going to be there.
Yeah.
We're not going to miss a game. I don't care if it was their bedtime. I don't care if it was their nap time. I don't care, whatever. They were going to be at that game because you know what? They need to see why daddy's not at home, or not. Mm-hmm. They need to see why he's not around so much. They need to get that perspective of, it's not just that he's gone and you're not going to see what they're doing. And I think that was just super important that our children saw it and did that. It wasn't about the kids' schedule whatsoever. There wasn't very much that we missed. And I think that was just, it just made our family very strong. The kids knew exactly, August 1. All right, Dad, we'll see you in, January. Exactly. Right. I mean, we just knew. We knew to, June and July, take advantage of that time as a family. And the kids just knew, what it would look like. Oh, it's 2-a-days. All right, Dad. Well, we love you. See ya. So I think that was the best thing that we did, Bill and I together, just whatever it took to get the kids to see the inside. And that was our life, right? I mean, that's how they lived. That's how they grew up, as yours. Yeah. And it was a huge part we were sitting of their lives
together when they were little. And I think you and I both were we both navigated that space of, I don't care, we're not going to worry about nap time or bedtime tonight. We're not going to be so married to that. We were going to be flexible because we knew it was important for our kids to see where their dads were and what they were involved with. And that's how they were going to be engaged. And both of our kids have good relationships with their dads. And I think it has a lot to do with it that we never tried to adhere to something so strict that we're like, no, this is not how it's going to work for our family. Yeah. I got a lot of side eye when I took Sierra to her first football game at the University of Oregon when she was, 10 days old. But it's like, no, this is what our life, this is what we're going to do. And I think, and you've done the same thing. And I look back and the kids are like, we love that stuff. I wouldn't, I wouldn't do that for anything. But I also knew what everybody was doing. And I think, on the flip side too, talking about, Bill loved that. You honored that. You supported that, which was hard at times. But he also loved and honored and supported the fact that you were the primary, I don't want to say you guys were both breadwinners, but that you made more money. And he was like, well, she's doing what she loves and I'm good with that. He didn't have any ego about that. And I think that's a very unique thing too, especially in our generation.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the stories we have that we just look back on, because it's a gal that you would actually know from Pullman. But speaking of those seats at Beasley, right? I mean, I have the 3 seats. I've got me and the 2 kids, and Austin never moved from his seat. He was, engaged in that game. He was watching everything that was going on, and his dad, everybody. And then Emily, she's everywhere, right? She's wanting to go for a walk. She wasn't so into it. And the gal that sat behind me, she was like, oh, well, let me take her for a minute, and so she was always trying to help me. And I remember her one time saying to her husband next to her, she goes, this woman, she's just a single mom. I can't believe she brings her kids to every single game. She is just a Cougar fan she is the biggest Cougar fan ever. Look at her. She's here at 9:00 with these babies.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, that was kind of what life looked like.
Yeah, and you would absolutely know who this couple is. But I mean, it's so funny that she had said that, and we of course got to know each other really well after that. But it's so funny. Wow. But it's important. It's important for them. They just totally need to know. And it's, I don't care about my kids' schedule. It's not about them at that time. Yeah. I mean, they need to learn that it's, there's not a strict schedule for everything. You need to learn to go with the flow.
Cultivating healthy relationships with others. And you understood early on for my kids to have a healthy relationship within our family and with Bill, understanding what he does, and also just for your own sanity too, of being in that space and be able to see him. You understood that that's what it was going to take to cultivate a healthy relationship within your family. But also, I would say for you cultivating healthy relationships with others, it goes back to all those things that we talked about already. You know what kinds of people you want to surround yourself with, and you know what kinds of people are going to inspire you and that you're going to be able to inspire and work well with. Where do you think you got to that space? Because I know, like in high school, you and Bill met at the end of high school, but you did your own thing. You were involved in your sports, but at what point did you really understand from a relationship standpoint? Because there's complicated relationships in your life. How did you get to that space of understanding? Okay, this is what it's going to take, and this is what I'm willing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one is just be yourself, right? I mean, just absolutely just be yourself. Don't be someone that you're not, because the people feed off of that and they can see right away, right? I mean, that's what salespeople, right? Yeah. You can tell when they're being a salesperson. And I actually, in my work, I talk a lot about that, because I know people like you got to prepare for this, and you've got to train to do this, and you got to do this sales pitch, and this is the way you got to deliver it. And this is just like, they know you're making a delivery in that. I mean, they want to, it's okay for you to make your own delivery, be yourself. And if you make mistakes, you make some mistakes, because I think they, appreciate that more than they do, the sales pitch, right? I mean, because they're seeing that this is a real genuine person talking to me. She's willing to make some mistakes, or she's not talking exactly, perfect, or whatever. So, I mean, going back to the whole high school thing. Yeah, I was not a popular one. I was not in school. I was in school, but I swam before and after school. So I was involved in social outside school activities. Bill was, he kind of was involved in that social side. So as far as popular crowds, whatever, no. When he asked me to that senior ball, walking out of that classroom, that I was shocked, absolutely shocked. Here I am, no makeup on, never wore makeup in my life. I mean, I was literally shocked. And my family was too, when I got home and told them. My younger sister had to teach me how to put makeup on and do my hair to go to the senior ball. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, because he's handsome, and tall and popular. I'm like, what's happening? So.
But I think though, but you are, one of the things that people say about you all the time is how authentic you are. And I that's always a space you've walked in. And I think that's what he loved your authenticity. You weren't you weren't putting on shows or trying to do anything to be anybody other than who you authentically were. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're not yourself, I mean, you're just putting on extra layers that you don't need, right? If we're talking about layers, those are layers you don't need. You just need to be yourself. I mean, as we go back, too, with the, cultivating that. And I mean, hard work just feels good. It's the sense of accomplishment with work goes so far in your, just who you are as well. Staying positive and having that, it just feels good on the brain, right? It grows your brain to have those experiences and work. With me, people, make a difference for me. I love seeing people's stories. I just love being around people. Like I say, people watch. I just love to hear this kind of stories, because I mean, I know I have my own story, but boy, there's some lots bigger stories out there for sure. Phenomenal women that are doing amazing things. So and
I think that you don't, and you sharing your story inspires others to feel like they can share theirs too. I mean, I think there's a lot of power in that. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Absolutely agree. Yeah. Everybody's got one, right? Whether we're willing to share.
Yeah. We've got it.
And it grows and continues. So, we're all going to have lots of stories. I think that one of the biggest thing too is, life's not meant to be easy, right? I mean, it's challenging and it's hard. And you've just got to kind of put up that armor in a way, but that's with the support of your friends and your family and everybody else. You're not going through it just by yourself.
Right.
But it's not meant to be super easy. If you go forward and have that positive attitude and whatever, it can be easier.
Yeah.
But you're always going to have something. That's just what it is.
I think though the one thing that you can say is that you put practices in your life by having such a genuine understanding of who you are and what inspires you, that makes the hard stuff more navigatable. Is that a word? Navigatable, because you're not trying to figure it out. You know what your why is. You know what you can say yes and no to. You know who you are. You're not worried about other people's expectations. Your drive is always from your heart and what you truly care about. And so I think that removes a lot of the garbage and stuff out of the way when you do have to navigate those hard spaces, because you have a clear understanding of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I said, with just the things I've gone through, I mean, tomorrow could be something that comes about, another surgery, whatever, I just can't stop there. I mean, it's just like, I can't feel sorry for myself. I mean, these things happen for a reason, right? I mean, everybody's got a story. There's a reason why I've gone through these things. Probably because I'm too competitive and stubborn. No, I'm just kidding. But you know what? I mean, that's when you take it, right? I mean, you've just got to take it, and I've got to rely on others to take it with me somewhat. But I got to own that. And then I've got to, make the path forward, how I'm going to go forward with that and deal with that. And it's a much easier pathway on your body, on your mind, layer wise, to look at it positively, and just know that, okay, this happened, but I don't have a choice. I got to move forward.
What are we going to do with it?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Exactly. The F.E.E.L podcast is the title of this podcast, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. You've really already talked about this, but kind of in a summation, how do you think you live out F.E.E.L?
Yeah, this was a hard one for me because I thought about it for a while, because my mind was just spinning. That's a big one. Yeah. But it took me back, and I was like, oh, okay, well, that's easy. Because I kind of something I've gone by, I don't know, the last few years, that's come to mean a lot to me is my 3 H's. So humility, right? I mean, it's just like, oh yeah, you've got to have that. And a lot of that, you live a lot in that, at least I do. Yeah. And humanity, all with the volunteer. I mean, just the people out there. I mean, you just see, so much. You just connect with that. You got to be a part of it. You got to understand it. You see it, can't ignore it, and hope. So, those are three things that I focus on a lot. I write about it a lot. It's important because the humility part is yourself. The humanity part is, just what you see out there in others, and where, oh my gosh, look at what's happening here, get involved here, or, humanity is huge, right? It's a big word. And then hope. You got to have it.
Yeah.
So, these women, that I volunteer with, I mean, like I said, rough, tough stuff. But man, do they have hope, and man, are they inspired. So they inspire me. They're amazing. Yeah. I get all my energy and a lot from them. So.
Awesome. I love that. I love the 3 H's. Okay. That's going to be in the sources notes, folks.
3 H's.
We've got a little rapid fire for you here to wrap things up. Name 5 activities that nourish you.
Okay. Yeah, that took a little bit too, but sleep, man, you got to have good sleep.
Yes, you do. Amen.
It's important. And Bill pushes that a lot too. The athletes, it's important. You got to coach up these coaches and let them know. I mean, it's just huge, right? I mean, they need sleep. I need sleep. Everybody needs sleep. Work is healthy to me. I mean, it's definitely, you got to put some, limitations on things or whatever. But it's important. I nourish my work, whether I even call it work, right? Like we said, just different things. It's just how I'm involved and what I get from that. Spending time with family and friends, definitely, and my doggies. I mean, that's huge. They're going to nourish me so much. And we're big sailors, right? Yeah. So anytime we can get out there on the lake, that peace and tranquility of sailing, that it says it all, especially for Bill, right? That's his big escape. Both of we love it. It really has just brought such joy and peace in our life. That's how we try to get that tranquility, serenity, escape. So got to have that. And then just for myself, it's working out and swimming, having that time in the water. I'm not, it's not like you're just going to sit there and count laps all day long. You're thinking, and you're working through scenarios and all that. So that's very nourishing for me because I work through a lot in my mind when I'm swimming.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Used to have to count laps. I don't have to count them anymore.
But I love how you've transferred that though, and how that, how you use that as a processor, so it's filling a lot of different, both your mental, emotional, physical, all those health spaces all kind of get filled out.
Yeah.
That's really
However, if I do have someone in the lane next to me, I do have to pass. I do have to pass them.
5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Yeah. What came to mind? Inspired. I mean, love that word. Love when that happens, challenged. I'm always kind of bring it to me. I mean, just like, let's see what we got. So I love being challenged. Happy, got to go with happy. Ambitious. That's a big one for me. It's important to stay that way. And then accomplished. Yeah. I mean, like, what can I have on my list where I feel like I've, made a difference and accomplished something? So those would be my 5.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for this time today. It was so good to spend this time with you and just get to share I think that there's so many women out there that can learn so much from you. And you just, I was like, Joy could be a life coach, honestly. I mean, just because you have something good, you just know yourself so well and you live by that and you live unapologetically. And I just thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom and your experience and your stories with us today. And again, people don't miss the show notes for all these things that you've heard her talk about and what she's doing. And if you're looking for that sports bra that does not make you dislocate your shoulder, this is your woman. Let me tell you, I have one. It's awesome. Show notes for that information. But thanks again for your time today, Joy. Thank you to my amazing producer and editor, Valencia San Luis, that makes all this possible and gets to clean up all the fun that we have within these episodes to make them so we can put them out to the world. Thank you to Abby F.E.E.L, who operates my Instagram site at Embracing Layers and takes care of our webpage, embracinglayers.com. I could not do this without you. Next week, we will be with my friend, Helen Alessi Dorado. Helen and I met in my time in Long Island. She is a Her Story facilitator. She's an activist. And I can't wait to share Helen with you. But again, thanks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed learning so much from Joy. Her name fits her to a T. And have a great week.